It's taken 5 years, but the book-type folding phone has finally gotten there. The biggest screen you can put in your pocket now collapses into something so close to the size and weight of a normal phone that you might find yourself forgetting that it even opens at all. And in a refreshing change of pace, you don't need to import it from overseas. The Pixel 9 Pro Fold is the most capable Pixel Google has ever made, and one of the biggest generation-to-generation upgrades the smartphone world has ever seen. So why aren't I more excited by it? Well, because it still compromises in two of the biggest categories that have kept foldables out of reach of creators and normals alike. I covered the major differences with last year's Pixel Fold in my hands-on video, so I won't dwell on those, except to say that I'm still sad Google ditched the passport-like form factor. I get it, it introduced more problems than it solved, but I still think there's fertile ground worth exploring in that space between book-type and flip-type foldables. I really hope this intermediate category of clam books, flip shells, whatever, doesn't go away forever. That said, I guess there's nothing wrong with conforming if you're still competing, and the 9 Pro Fold competes. It's substantially thinner than Samsung's Fold 6, which makes its added display acreage even more impressive, despite its higher mass. Now, 8-inch screens are nothing new in this category globally, but this is the first time we've had such a luxurious canvas here in the States. And I'm delighted to report that Google's promises about brightness were not overstated. Ditto the snappy hinge that folds completely flat without a fight. About the only thing I wish Google had done on the hardware is find a way to further minimize the crease. But just like on all modern foldables, it doesn't diminish the experience of actually, using the thing. How much utility you get from that screen will vary. I had a great debate about this with my friends on the Android Police podcast, with Will Saddleberg making the point that not enough Android apps are optimized for big screens to make big foldables worth it for him. But my point is, you gotta take stock of the things you do on your phone most often. For me, that's reading articles on Substack or Medium, skimming blogs in Chrome, soaking up reviewer's guide PDFs from Gmail, reading books in Kindle, documenting my so-called life in Evernote, moving money around in banking apps, watching YouTube, and tracking the nitty-gritty of kitty blood cell counts in spreadsheets. And for every one of these use cases, which again are actual examples of how I use my phone every day, friends, that big screen is an order of magnitude more useful than your typical tall rectangle. And we haven't even gotten to the photography benefits. Do I run into apps that don't scale well to the nearly square screen? Absolutely, often. But in those cases, the standard-sized cover display is just a flip away. It's those concrete conveniences to which I gravitate far more readily than the AI features, a sentiment that also carries over to the cameras. Now, this is a tough discussion because two different things are true at once here. First, this is an outstanding camera system that almost no normal person will have any problem with. But second, it's also the most compromised part of a phone so expensive that it should really carry no compromise. When I asked Google's director of design why the telephoto and ultra-wide cameras are diminished versions of what you get on the Pixel 9 Pro, his explanation was that there wasn't room in the casing to use those self-same sensors, and they wanted to fit a bigger battery with the reclaimed space. But the thing is that this is still a massive camera module, and the battery, well, stay tuned. Again, for most people, this downgrade will make no difference in the day-to-day. The 2-generation leap in processor versus the Pixel Fold really makes a difference, despite the similar optics. Just look at these zoom shots of One World Trade to see how much more detail you get from 9 Pro Fold. And no, this is not using the AI Zoom Enhance, which I have not found useful. And coming back to street level, it turns out that dog days of autumn are the perfect time of year to test a camera like this. The traditional strength of the Pixel has been shoot-from-the-hip reliability. And whether it's the muggy morosity of the sweat-soaked Mr. Moribund on one of his Brooklyn thought walks, or an improbably idyllic day watching a brass band play pop covers in Bryant Park, Or the quick and dirty snapshots from opening week at the most perfectly named new cafe in Brooklyn. Yes, David Kogan really opened a coffee shop, and yes, he really did call it Coffee Check. Or the main camera selfies and tabletop mode time-lapses only a foldable can give you. This is an outrageously good camera. And yet, I just can't help thinking of what might have been with the true top-of-the-line optics you get on the non-folding version of this phone, which, to belabor the point, costs about $800 less. And look, let me put this in context. I'm coming freshly off a review of a Xiaomi phone with some delectable Leica film emulation filters that I liked a lot. And so I find I don't enjoy Google's color processing the way I once did, with its annoying tendency to cool everything down. My friend Hayato Huseman says it has a sterile quality to it, and I think that's a great word. And it doesn't help that some old problems remain here, like the slow lens switching during zooms and the hair trigger orientation sensor when the phone is open. But as long as I'm nitpicking about the small stuff, I've got to give credit on the small stuff too. I am always listening to podcasts or songs out and about, and I'm frequently recording video out and about. Well, the Pixel is the only phone I've used that doesn't make me stop what I'm listening to in order to record those video clips. It also doesn't reset my framing when I switch between photo and video modes. Take notes, Samsung. Let's conclude the camera convo with AI. Sure, I had fun asking the Pixel to reimagine Greenpoint's pencil factory as though it were really made of pencils, and indulging my macabre side by putting a pothole in the foreground spitting steaming blood. Later, I tried correcting this algae-choked pond in Prospect Park by replacing it with crystal clear water, sorta. And this photo of horses in the same park's paddock is what my mind wanted to be there, given that fence type and the time of day, and maybe some childhood memories. But I think Captain Scott says it best.
But it's not real. It's just a computer-generated fantasy. And I'm just an old man who's trying to hide in it.
At the end of the day, I'd just rather use the existing Pixel features, which thankfully are still included, to put an artistic spin on things that are real, as opposed to using AI to insert things that never were. I touched on battery life earlier. Look, it's not a disaster, but it's also not one of the high points. I've hit the low battery warning before bedtime on nearly every day of my week-long test period. Also annoying, the placement of the charging coil means your existing wireless chargers may or may not work. It only charges at 7.5 watts, and reverse wireless charging is also absent. That's not great. What is great? Phone calling. In a comparison with Motorola's Razr Plus, the aforementioned David Kogan preferred the way I sounded on the Pixel, and I found his voice crisper on Google's phone too. That new clear calling feature is pulling its weight, I guess. No, I will never use those audio emojis, but they're here if you want them. Part of the portfolio of Pixel features I've now enumerated enough times over the years to just skip them on this go-around. I find those value adds so compelling that I'll probably stay on the Pixel 9 Pro Fold rather than revert to the OnePlus Open, because even though I prefer that phone's Hasselblad camera and open canvas multitasking, I value Google's eye for design and the priority it's placed on useful features. The same reasons would probably prompt me to pick the Pixel over Galaxy Fold 6, not to mention Google's superior zoom performance. But there are compelling reasons to choose any of these. The Fold 6 is more compact and more mature, with a stronger set of foldable-specific features, while the OnePlus Open can likely be had for the lowest cost. Yeah, it's a good time for large foldables, as they've settled into a semblance of the same maturity their flip-type counterparts are beginning to enjoy. It is, in other words, the end of the beginning, and Google has done a fantastic job of bringing its Pixel in line with the current foldable cream of the crop. I guess the reason I'm not as enthusiastic as I expected to be is that I think the Pixel shines most brightly when it's a trailblazer, setting the tone with either features or prices. And as solid as it is, the Pixel 9 Pro Fold does neither. So it just feels like more follower than leader. If you decide to pony up for it anyway, budget some bucks for some skins from my sponsor, dbrand. The Pixel may no longer look like a moleskin, but it can still feel like one with dbrand's genuine leather treatment. Or you can combat the Pixel's monochromatic color options with skins ranging from simple pastels to the utterly unhinged. Dbrand your Pixel, folding or otherwise, or other device, at the link in the description. This video was produced following 8 days with a Pixel 9 Pro Fold review sample provided by Google, which also provided travel and lodging for Mr. Mobile's attendance at Made by Google 2024 in Mountain View, California. But Mr. Mobile does not offer manufacturers any editorial input of any kind into the review process, and no compensation changed hands in exchange for this coverage. These opinions are mine, and mine alone. Please subscribe to the Mr. Mobile on YouTube if you'd like to see more videos like this one and my reviews of the other foldables mentioned herein. Until next time, from Michael Fisher, Captain Two Phones on Threads, thanks for watching. And stay mobile, my friends.